This is Hawa. Welcome to my channel, Java with Hawa. Today I'm going to be solving this practiceIt problem in the stacks and queues chapter. This is called maxToTop. So it says, write a method called maxToTop that takes a stack of integers as a parameter and moves the largest value in the stack to the top of the stack, leaving all other values in their original order. You may assume that the stack does not contain any duplicates. For example, if a stack S stores 27, 5, 42, negative 11, 0, 19, the call of maxToTop of S should change it to store 27, 5, negative 11, 0, 19, 42. If the stack is empty, your method should not change it. Use one queue as auxiliary storage. So I think this one shouldn't be too hard. I'm going to be using the AWW WhiteBoard. It's a free online whiteboard tool you can use. Alright, and this is where I'll write most of my pseudocode, although it's hard to write because this is not touchscreen, so I just do this thing. If you've seen my other video called order of operations, basically this just reminds me what step I did first and what step I did last and in between. I'm gonna do this really fast, then we can get started. Alright, so where do we start? It takes a stack of integer parameters. So let's say we have our stack here. Oops. Still a bad S. Anyways, so this is our stack. 27, 5, 42, negative 11, 0, 19. 27, 5, 42, negative 11, 0, and 19. 27, 5, 42, negative 11, 0, 19. And we want to change this stack so that the largest value is at the top, leaving the order of all the other values unchanged. Alright, so we can use one queue as auxiliary storage. The first thing I would do is empty all the contents of this stack into a queue. So we have a queue here, and basically taking all of these and emptying them into here. So we have 19, 0. You remember the property of the stack is last in, first out, which is why this is actually the top of the stack and this is the bottom of it. So emptying them into a queue would give us 19, 0, negative 11, 42, 5, and 27. So from here, what we can do, so now our stack is empty. So this is our stack here, and it is now empty. So now what we can do is, I'm gonna go ahead and get a variable, we'll call it num, integer num, int num equals, and I will just equal it to the first value in the queue. So I'll say 19. Essentially, I'll be removing it from the queue and placing it into the stack, this empty stack here. So we're gonna say, what was I gonna do? Okay, so we're gonna remove it from the queue, something like q.remove, and I'm also going to place that back into the original stack. So s.push num. So the reason I'm doing this is so that I can compare each term in this to this number and update num kind of based on this. So here we go. We're gonna have green. So now our stack contains 19. Say we did one call of this little thing over here. Our stack contains 19, right? Num is 19 right now. Num equals 19. I'll put that here again. And then our queue is going to be 0, negative 11, 42, 5, and 27. So this said, you may assume the stack does not contain any duplicates. So that's kind of helpful. So what we can do is essentially compare this number here to each peak in the stack, meaning each top number. So we'll have we'll have only two cases: if the peak in the queue is greater than num, or if it's less than num, and we want the greater number, right? So what we have to do now is say if I'm gonna go ahead and switch to blue. Now, if q.peak, so q.peak right now is 0. The peak is the number at the top of the queue or the top of the stack. So I'm saying if q.peak is less than num, then what I want to do is add it to the stack. Either way, I'm going to be adding to the stack. The only reason I did this is to compare each and find my max num, basically. So if q.peak is less than num, I'm not essentially going to be doing anything too dramatic. All I'm going to be doing is adding it to the stack. So I'm going to say s.push q.remove. So I'm just removing the top number from the queue, right? So that way I can compare the other numbers, because a stack doesn't have like indices that we can just jump to and compare. And then I'm gonna say if q.peak is greater than num, and we can assume there's no duplicates, so that's just something we don't have to write a case for. So if q.peak is greater than num, so let's say by now we get 242 and it's greater than num, then what would I want it to do? What would we want it to do? Let me think about this really quick. If it's greater than num, then I want to update num. I want to make num, the max num, equal to that number, that peak number, right? And then I want to I think instead of adding it into the stack, I don't want to mess up the order. This is tricky. Let's see, num equals q.peak. Okay, no, this should be okay. So num equals q.peak, right? I'm still going to add this into my stack. s.push num, right? And then once it goes through all of these, here's what my stack should look like, right? My stack should look like 19, 0, -1, 42, 5, and 27. And my num, my max num that would be returned would be 42, correct? So now what we can do is find a way to get this number here that was returned at the top of the stack, right here. So my idea is to say, okay, num equals 42. Now take this stack, right? Basically, while this stack is not empty, so while stack S is not empty, then go ahead and push the contents of the stack back into our queue. So remember, now our queue is empty because we already removed everything from it. So we're gonna say q.add s.remove, s.pop, sorry. Oops. q.add s.pop, right? So all we're doing is, wow. I'm really bad at writing it with this thing, bear with me. So all we're doing is, like I said, putting the contents of the stack into the queue. Within this while loop, however, I can have an if statement saying if num, sorry, I meant to say if q dot peak, wait. Well, maybe I should have this peak test first before I start adding to the, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and rearrange this. So here's what I'm gonna do. Q dot add s dot pop. Copy this. How do you paste on here? Is there a way to paste? Oh, okay. Cool. Okay, so what I'm gonna test first is if q dot peak, sorry, not q dot peak, if s dot peak, because right now everything's in my stack. So if s dot peak equals num, what I want to do is just remove that number. So completely remove it from the stack. So I would say s dot pop, right? And we're assuming there's no duplicate, so there won't be an issue of this occurring 2 times or so. So q dot add s dot pop, right? And then no, after we find this, it's only possible for this case to happen one time, like, because no duplicates, right? So, wow, that's really bad, but it's only possible for this to happen one time. So after this happens, all we have to do is q dot add s dot pop. Just right after this. This is the statement we want. Q dot add s dot pop. However, I'm afraid of like an empty stack exception, because if I check, actually, I'm not afraid of that because this can only happen one time. All right. Hopefully there won't be an empty stack exception. We can deal with that when we actually get to coding. So now I'm assuming this goes well, this is what my queue will look like, right? No, sorry. After this while loop is complete, get some more space here. After this while loop is complete, what I'm gonna say is q dot add q dot add num. Now I want my num to be added. So now essentially if this works as planned, if this works as planned, here's what my queue should be. So we have our 19, so we have 27, 5, 42, negative 1, 0, 19. While s is not empty, if s dot peak equals num s dot pop. So 27 does not equal 42. So it adds that to the queue. So we have 27. 5 does not equal 42, adds a 5. 42 does equal 42. Our peak does equal our num. So all it does is pop it out. Completely removes this, right? Out of our stack. And then it goes to the next one, and we have a negative 1, we have a 0, we have a 19. And at the end is when I said, okay, now let's come over here and actually add our num. Now that we're done adding all the other numbers in their correct order, how about we add our num at the end here, right? So now, this is basically the solution here. What we need to do though is remember to restore our stack. This is what we want our stack to go back to. You know, we have to restore our stack like we found it. So all you have to do, let's say I'm gonna move up here, empty. Let's say empty the contents of this queue back into the stack. So our stack would be, so Q is first in, first out. We have a 27. We'd have a 5. We have a negative 1. We'd have a, what is this? Oh, it's negative 11 actually, and then 0. And then we'd have a 19, and we have a 42, and that's exactly what we want, because this will be the top of our stack. And that should give us the solution. Let me check this question out again. If the stack is empty, your method should change it. So this is the first case we're going to take care of. Your method should not change it, and we can only use one queue as auxiliary storage. Alright, great. So now that we have this going, what I'm going to do is take this and use it to start coding. I'm going to use Eclipse. I'm going to comment this out. It's an old method I was working on. Alright, and down here we'll get started. So, what was this called? maxToTop. So we have public static. For now, I'm not going to be returning an integer yet, just because I want to be testing my code throughout before I even get to the return value with like print lines. So I won't be returning anything yet until the end, and you'll see why. So public static void maxToTop takes a stack of integers as a parameter. We'll call it S. And first I will initialize all my variables or all the storage I'll be using. So I'll be using a queue of integers as auxiliary storage. Queue equals new. I'm sorry, I kind of typed loud. Alright, and then that is, I think, all I need there. So the first thing we did, so we used black. Okay, so emptied all the contents of our stack into the queue. So we're going to say while our stack is not empty, meaning while it still has elements, queue.add, add all the elements in this stack into the queue, right? And that should have added all the elements. And then what did we do? We said int num equals 19 q.remove s.pushNum. So we're trying to begin our test cases by at least getting one value. So actually first, before we even do this, we're gonna test if q.dot is empty, meaning if the size is 0, do nothing. And I'm gonna have the else here. Yes, else, and then we can have all our other, all our other code executed in here, in this else statement. So while s is not empty, q.add s.pop, we did that. Now I'm gonna have a variable say int num equals q.remove, right? And I'm gonna say push that back into my stack, and then so right now we know num is 19. We push it into our stack. So these are the kind of tests that I usually do here. You'll see, just to test that it's adding things properly and no mistake was made along the way. And then the sysout shortcut, you just type in sysout in Eclipse and then control space. I'm gonna have my stack as well to test, just to make sure it's running smooth. And then just ignore this. Is this a stack? Yes, it is. maxToTop B. I'm gonna go ahead and just fill this with the values we have here. So 27, 5, 42, -11, 0, and 19. Alright. Here we go. So it never printed these out. I'm not sure if it didn't reach them or what's going on. If q.dot is empty, else I'm not sure why this isn't printing. Let me try outside of this else case and see what happens. Okay. So our queue is empty, and then wait, what's going on here? Wait a second. our queue should actually not be empty. Let me I don't know what's going on, to be honest. Okay, for now I'm gonna keep out the test case of whether or not it's empty. I'm gonna solve this first and then figure it out from there. Okay, so this is exactly what I'm looking for here. So my Q has 0, -11, 42, 5, and 27. And our S is 19, just like we have in step 3 here. Now we can begin comparing each of the peak numbers in the Q to this number 19 here to see if it's greater than or less than. Keeping in mind there's no duplicates. Now what I can say is, what did we do? Okay, so now we can start doing our test cases. So if Q dot peak is less than num, then all I want to do is S dot push Q dot remove, right? And then else, meaning there's no duplicates anyway. So else, if it's greater than, then update num to equal Q dot peak, and then S dot push Q dot remove, right? So now let me put this here. What are we looking at right now? So this was our initial when we first put 19 into the stack. Now this is what we have here. -11, 42, 5, 27, 19, and 0. Alright, so this is supposed to be in a while loop. I failed to do that. So we're going to say while there are still contents in our queue, and now let's test it. So now we have 19, 0, -11, 42, 45. I'm going to go ahead and sys out our num just to see if it updated like we wanted to. So num should equal 42. Great. That's exactly what we want. So we're on the right track here. We have our num equals 42. Now what we have to do is work on putting that 42 at the top of our stack. So what we can do, what did we do here? So we said, while S is not empty, if S dot peak equals num, then S dot pop. Okay, great. So we said, while S is not empty, then if S dot peak equals num, then S dot pop, right? Just get rid of it entirely. And then else, we want to say, what did we do if else? We just said Q dot add it straight to the queue. So else Q dot add S dot pop, right? Alright, cool. So now this is in the while loop, and it should give us the order we're looking for here. So let me test that again. And now we have in the queue 27, 5, -11, 0, 19, and our stack is empty. This is exactly what we wanted to happen. And now after this while loop is done executing, all we want to do is add our max value, our max number, to the back of the queue. So all you have to say is q.add num, and that should give us exactly what we're looking for. Perfect. So we have 27, 5, -11, 0, 19, 42. If we go here, we had, oops, I did not mean to do that. Okay, whatever. So we have 27, 5, -1, 0, 19, 42. So that's exactly what we wanted to do. Now our last step here in yellow is to restore our stack, correct? All we have to do is add this back into the stack from our queue and we'll be good to go. So we have I'll do that here. Is this the end of the method? Yeah. So we're gonna do that here. We're gonna say while there are still elements left in the queue, take all those elements out and put them into our stack and restore our stack. I'm going to do this one more time. This is just how I test. It's a bit messy, but it really helps me visualize. Instead of using the debugger, it helps me visualize what's happening at each moment in time. So this is our, hold on a minute. Did it update? Okay, there it is. So now our stack is 27.5, negative 11, 0, 19 and 42. This is our Q, this is our S. So we now know that this is the max value and we've put it to the top. Now, that's it. Yes, we did it. So now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all these test cases that I used just for clarity reasons. And then I'm going to have to, perfect. I'm going to have to add the case where if the stack is empty. So I'm not sure why it was acting up in the beginning, but let's try that one. So we said if the stack is empty, honestly maybe s.set. Actually, it's empty should do the trick, honestly. Then do nothing, and else do all of this. I'm not sure why it's acting up. Let's see. Okay, looks good now. Maybe something just didn't process earlier. Not sure why that was acting up. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead with this. I'm gonna paste this into my, oh, now I actually have to return the num if I remember correctly. Where is it? And moves the largest value. Oh, we actually did not have to return anything. All we're doing is moving the value. So, okay, that's good to know. Here's our eclipse. So we don't have to return an integer. We just have to change the content, the order of the stack, basically. Just move the max value to the top, like it says. So I'm gonna copy and paste this into practiceIt and hope for the best. Yay, it worked. So now, what I like to do, I usually comment my code after I write it. I should probably start doing it during, but I just like to go on my GitHub and just track my progress there by adding exactly, all these exercises that I do. It hasn't been much, but we're getting there. So this is maxToTop, and then I put the description also. Alright, and then I just paste my code here. I recommend tracking your everything you're doing somewhere. I mean, practiceIt does track it for you, but I like GitHub kind of thing. Alright, let's click that, and yay! Alright, thank you guys for watching. If you have any suggestions for me or anything, any feedback, that would be great. Or any recommendations, any requests of problems I should do, just let me know in the comments. Thank you guys.